December 21st, 1989, Nicolae Ceaușescu steps onto the balcony of the Central Committee building, believing he can control a nation already on the edge of revolt. This speech was meant to show strength. Instead, it exposed how deeply disconnected Ceaușescu was from his own people. At first, the crowd listens quietly, but frustration that had been building for decades begins to surface. A single shout from the crowd breaks the silence, an act unthinkable under a dictatorship. For the first time, Ceaușescu hears open defiance. His expression freezes. What begins as a murmur grows into thousands of voices rejecting his rule. Ceaușescu tries to calm the people, raising his hands, but the crowd refuses to obey. For the first time in 25 years, his control slips, not in secret, but on live television. The booing grows louder. His voice cracks. This was the moment the dictator realized Romania was no longer his. Elena Ceaușescu tries to speak, but the crowd's anger drowns her out. Security forces tense up, unsure whether to protect the crowd or protect the dictator. Inside the building, panic spreads. Ceaușescu's team realizes the situation is collapsing. Ceaușescu is hurried away from the balcony. His victory speech has become a public defeat. Outside, the crowd erupts, no longer afraid, no longer silent. Chants echo across the city. Down with Ceaușescu. Demonstrations spread from one street to the next, unstoppable and fueled by years of suffering. The regime orders police to open fire, but many refuse. By nightfall, crowds seize control of key government buildings. Inside the palace, Ceaușescu realizes he has lost his country in a single day. He gives one final order: prepare the helicopter. As gunfire echoes across Bucharest, Ceaușescu and Elena rush to the roof, surrounded by loyal guards. The helicopter lifts off, leaving behind a city they no longer control. For a moment, they believe they've escaped, but Romania is already rising against them. Military units begin switching sides, declaring loyalty to the revolution instead of the dictator. In towns across the country, people tear down Ceaușescu's portraits, symbols of a collapsing regime. The helicopter pilot receives orders from ground forces: land immediately. The pilot lies to Ceaușescu, claiming a mechanical problem. He intends to hand them over. They land in a field near Târgoviște, where soldiers quickly surround the helicopter. Ceaușescu insists he is still Romania's president. The soldiers don't care. He orders them to salute him. Instead, they escort him into a military truck. Elena screams at the soldiers, calling them traitors as they ignore her completely. They are taken to a small military base in Târgoviște, their final destination. Inside a cold room, Ceaușescu tries to negotiate his release. No one listens. Elena demands luxury treatment, still believing she is mother of the nation. Outside, Romania celebrates. For the first time, people feel the weight of fear lifting. But inside the base, the atmosphere is tense. The soldiers know what happens next. A brief trial is organized, rushed, chaotic, and filmed for the world to see. Ceaușescu refuses to recognize the court. Elena calls it illegal. Neither understands that the country has moved on. The verdict is delivered quickly, guilty of genocide and sentenced to death. The guards step forward. The couple realizes this is the end. The soldiers march Ceaușescu and Elena through the courtyard toward a small, icy patch of ground behind the barracks. Elena tries to hold Ceaușescu's hand, but the guards separate them. They ask for a final moment together. The answer is no. As cameras begin recording, Ceaușescu starts singing the old communist anthem, refusing to die quietly. Elena shouts, "We raised you like our children!" But the soldiers remain silent. The firing squad takes position. Snow begins to fall lightly over the courtyard. Ceaușescu refuses the blindfold. His last words insist he is still Romania's leader. Elena steps closer to him, shouting, "We will die together!" The commander signals the firing squad. The tape keeps rolling. A burst of gunfire echoes through the base. In seconds, the dictatorship is over. Ceaușescu collapses first. Elena falls half a second later. The camera zooms in, capturing the historic end of the communist era. Soldiers rush forward to confirm the deaths, stunned by how quickly everything has ended. The footage is rushed to Bucharest, where editors prepare it for national television. On Christmas Day, Romania watches the execution on TV, the moment that shocked the world. For millions, this broadcast marks the first day of freedom in their lives. The Securitate, once feared everywhere, dissolves overnight as officers flee or hide. Crowds storm the infamous secret police headquarters, discovering files, torture rooms, and long-hidden secrets. In the days that follow, Romania struggles to understand how fast everything changed. The revolution claimed more than 1,000 lives, but ended a dictatorship that lasted 24 years. As the news spreads globally, foreign broadcasters replay the footage in shock and disbelief. For decades, Ceaușescu controlled the media. Now the world sees him fall on live television. Meanwhile, Romanians continue celebrating, tired, hungry, cold, but finally free. Hospitals overflow with wounded revolutionaries from the days of street fighting. Families search for missing loved ones, hoping they appear on survivor lists. The provisional government takes over, led by former communists who now promise democracy. Citizens worry the revolution might be hijacked, but hope remains stronger than fear. International aid convoys begin arriving, bringing food, medicine, and warm clothing. For the first time in decades, Western journalists are allowed to film freely inside the country. They record the crumbling apartments, the food shortages, the long lines, evidence of Ceaușescu's failed rule. Inside abandoned government offices, journalists find rooms stripped bare, folders burned, evidence destroyed. But some files survive, revealing decades of secret police surveillance on ordinary citizens. People begin requesting their own files, discovering betrayals, lies, and informants hidden in plain sight. Across Romania, statues of Ceaușescu are torn down, symbols of fear replaced with rage. In schools, teachers remove his portrait from classroom walls, something unthinkable just days earlier. At the same time, military tribunals begin investigating former officials accused of abuses. The world watches closely, wondering how Romania will rebuild after decades of isolation. But ordinary Romanians focus on simpler things: heat in their homes, food in their kitchens, and hope in their future. Slowly, the streets begin to calm. Soldiers return to barracks. Barbed wire comes down. But the memory of the revolution and the execution remains, burned into Romanian history. The execution site becomes a symbol, both of justice and of a nation's pain. People gather outside the barracks, laying candles for victims of the regime. The fall of Ceaușescu sends shockwaves through the remaining communist states across Europe. For Romanians, the fear that once kept them silent has disappeared almost overnight. Graffiti spreads across Bucharest, messages of freedom, anger, and hope. Former Securitate agents try to blend back into society, but the people haven't forgotten them. Investigators search Securitate safe houses, uncovering weapons, tapes, and hidden rooms. Many Romanians fear that without careful leadership, chaos could return. But for the first time in decades, uncensored newspapers hit the streets. Journalists print stories that once would have sent them to prison. Meanwhile, the revolution inspires neighboring countries still under dictatorship. In Bucharest, crowds chant the names of the victims who never lived to see freedom. Families visit mass graves from the December fighting, searching for closure. The new government promises democracy, elections, and a free press. Whether these promises will be kept remains uncertain, but the people are determined to hold their leaders accountable. Across Romania, the atmosphere shifts from fear to possibility. The revolutionary spirit has changed the nation forever. Ceaușescu's rule collapsed, faster than anyone expected, 3 days from defiance to execution. And the world watched as Romania rewrote its destiny in real time, live on television.